Okay, well, I'd like to start the Board of Selectmen's meeting for April 6th, 2020. I'm having issues opening up the mail. How do we go about with the manifest and all that stuff, Chris? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think just your usual business, but you gotta do everything by roll call.
Yep. All right, well, let me see if I can try and pull that up.
Well, why don't I share the agenda?
All right. Yeah, I'm having an issue logging into the
Yeah.
Let me go back to the email. Bear with us, folks. It's trial and error here.
There we go. And okay, here it comes. I'm going to share my screen with the agenda. Can you see it?
I can see it.
Yep, I see it.
For anyone at home that's just listening in without video, we've put the agenda on the screen for the board's benefit as well as anybody watching.
Are we ready to approve the manifests?
I'm good.
I'll make a
Right.
motion that we approve the manifests of the accounts payable manifest of 4/6/2020 and the payroll of 4/7/2020.
Tony seconds.
Donna makes the motion.
And Tony seconds.
Tony seconds. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I, Donna Danis.
Hi, John Moran.
Hi, Ben Bartlett.
Hi, Tony Dumas.
Okay, manifest approved. And are we good with the minutes?
Except one second. Tony, are we recording?
We are. If you look
Okay,
next to your,
Just making sure. Okay, thank you.
yeah. Yeah, you should see on your toolbar, there's like a little cloud symbol with a red dot.
Yep.
That's
Got
the
it.
recording indicator.
Ben, as you do the minutes, you've recently got the March 9th non-public minutes as well. If you could approve those.
Yeah, I see those. Okay. Oh, I saw those. So has everybody had a chance to review 323 and 39?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Does somebody want to make a motion for 323?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 23rd, 2020. Were there any edits?
I believe there were.
There were. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 23rd, 2020 as amended.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
I, Donna Danis.
Hi, Tony Dumas.
Hi, John Moran.
I've been Bartlett. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the non-public 3-9 minutes?
Yep, I'll make a motion.
Everybody had a chance to look them over?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. We ready for the motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes from March 9th, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I, Donna Danis.
Hi, Tony Dumas.
Hi, John Moran.
I've been Bartlett. Unanimous. Okay, so that takes care of that. Action items review from last meeting. You have any?
Our main action items were basically to, well, for one, to work on our automated meeting capability, and our meeting tonight is proof of that. So that's one.
Yeah, and I'd like to, thank you and Donna and Chris as well for, making this happen. I know you folks have put in a lot of work to make this happen, to, make it as easy as possible. So thank you.
No problem. It's new for us, and we're gonna learn some lessons along the way. But the fact that we have guests with us tonight shows that we're on the right track. So
Yeah, it's a big improvement.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Okay, were there any other items?
Usually they're in the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
I don't believe there were.
No, I don't recall
If
seeing
anyone
any.
else recalls anything that outstanding that we had to carry forward to this week?
None? Okay. All right, we'll just move right on to the reports from assigned boards and committees. Obviously, the budget committee is done for the season. How about planning board? Probably.
Yeah, planning has not met since our last meeting, but I'm going to reach out to Dirk. Is he still the chairman?
I believe he is.
Yeah, I'll make sure that he knows to get me back on that mailing list.
So, are you setting up the same thing as what you're doing with this board too? Is Zoom?
Yeah, that's the plan. Is once we get this hammered out, we'll get all the other boards and committees that are covered by 91A set up for this.
Okay.
We got with the particular plan we have 10 licenses basically for 10 meeting hosts. So that's enough to cover Chris, and then one each for each board and committee, and probably a couple extras, but that'll cover us. So I'll get the other boards and committees set up. I'll do whatever training I have to do so that the chairman or someone on each board and committee is comfortable being the host, and then it'll just be business as usual for everyone.
Okay. All right, CIP? Is that Tyler or
No, that's been done.
done? Okay, 300. Anything on that? That was Tyler.
If you want, I could unmute Steve and see if he's got anything to add.
Sure.
Let me see if I can find him.
I appreciate everyone wearing their 300th hat, which is all we're doing right now. Is we're waiting for other things. We're still in abeyance for the moment. But thank you all for your hats.
Thanks, Steve. And
All right, so are we just gonna move right into Marston?
Yeah, so there's nothing on Marston. I'll be perfectly honest. I've got to kind of check with Matt Kukuchis to see kind of like what we had for early spring and whether or not we're able to go forward with anything. So I'll do that before the next meeting.
So when is it's already been seeded and all that, right? The field?
I don't think it got seeded. Chris, refresh my memory, but I don't believe it did.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
We just connected Sean McLean with Matt. They're going to work out restoration of that problem we had over the winter with erosion.
Yeah.
Highway's going to work on that when they have time. And Matt's doing a budget update, Donna. I think he's going to communicate with the group shortly.
Oh, great. Okay. Any word on the grant, Chris?
Well, we know we made the first cut. We've not heard anything about revisions that may come about in deadlines and matching and all that stuff. I think that bureaucracy is probably distracted with other things.
You're right. Yeah.
We're obviously going to have a hard time coming up with matching dollars at this point. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the whole thing just got rolled over a year. But we don't know. We haven't heard anything yet.
You think there'll be any extensions or anything, with the light of the this virus crisis that we're all in?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. The way the whole thing is set up is it's a reimbursement model. So, as we raise money, we can spend money and expect to get some of it back. But we're at this point not expecting to raise a whole lot. So we're looking at what's left from prior appropriations and get the grass seed in, and everything else after that will be gravy this year, I think.
Okay. Was there anything else on Marston, Donna?
No.
No? Okay. Alrighty.
I'm going to actually interject here and just for the audience again, to please put your name and address in the chat window. That's our virtual sign-in sheet, just so we know that who else has attended tonight from the public. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, so we'll roll right into the town administrator report.
Okay, I got a pile. Let's start with our people. We've got one recycling center employee home on doctor's orders. That's more preventative than a positive test related at this point. And we've got one firefighter self-monitoring after a potential exposure, still able to work, and in a 2-week window of self-monitoring. Everybody else is still standing, as far as I know.
So both of them on a 2-week window?
Good question.
Chris, both of them still on a 2-week window?
One's on a 2-week window. The other one is more week to week.
Okay. And the firefighter, that wasn't by chance the response to Pawtuckaway, was it?
No, the potential exposure wasn't in the workplace.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So last meeting, you discussed changes at the recycling center. We've now got 2 weekends behind us since then. That's all going quite well. Residents have made the switch. Still doing some education when people get there, but we got the impression that the outreach that we did after your last meeting worked. A lot of people came in knowing what to expect. Folks have been patient. We're still trying to find ways to push traffic to Thursday, and to a lesser extent Friday. Saturdays are still busy.
Do you think, if the traffic is high enough on any of those days, what is the possibility of opening up on another day, or is that not feasible?
It could be. One of the things we're trying to do is spread our staff out, split them up so that if we do start losing them, we can still keep running. And adding hours makes that more challenging. We had kicked around, a Sunday short day or something. We're kicking it around, but haven't gone that far. Anything else on recycling?
Yeah, actually, do we have any late nights, late hours?
Not until May.
Okay. I've had some folks asking about that.
Yeah, we did a lot of traffic counts last year on those extended hours, and it took several weeks into the summer season to really see any traffic increase on that Thursday evening. I think it takes folks time to adjust their calendar and remember that the recycling center is open Thursday night. So that's another, maybe if we did something on Thursday evening instead of Sunday, we could maybe pull some of that Saturday traffic. But we don't know. We're kind of making that part up as we go along.
Okay, thanks.
let's see, you also talked about officers, made a bunch of appointments at your last meeting. Tracy Black is in place as tax collector. She's up and running. Lori's in place as town clerk, Lori Anderson. You got a note from her today asking to approve her appointment of Sandy Weston as a deputy. I think Sandy's intention is to help in the bridge period here while we locate and train up somebody and to be an emergency backup as Lori's kind of alone, lacking that. So thankfully, Sandy's willing to stick around and help out in a pickle. And that appointment's been made and needs your approval if you are comfortable with it.
Do you want that now, Chris?
It's up to you. If you're ready to do it, that's all we need is that motion and vote if you're comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it. Everybody else comfortable with it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I'm
You
fine.
need one each, Chris, for the deputy and for the primary?
You did the primary last time
Oh, okay. So just for Sandy?
for just Sandy, yeah. I emailed you some language late today that would work for that purpose.
I'll make a motion pursuant to RSA 41:18. The select board approve the appointment of Sandra Weston as deputy town clerk. This is Donna.
Tony seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye, Donna.
Aye, Tony.
Hi, John.
Aye, Ben. We have a unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Can you send that article to me, or the motion?
I'll
Yeah.
send it to you. I got it.
And then treasurer, I think since we last talked, it's become evident that another write-in candidate got votes. That's Susan Bascom. We had been originally operating under the understanding that there was only one candidate with write-in votes, but there were several. The next highest vote getter is Susan Bascom. And the town clerk and the current treasurer have been talking with her. It sounds like she is going to be accepting that position.
Nice.
Not final yet, but and I haven't spoken with her, but that's what I'm hearing. So it looks like that's shaping up. The challenge there is going to be getting any kind of training and transition with Cheryl. So we're going to look through one of the recent governor's orders changed the timing of the transition of elected officials. We'd been up at your last meeting, we were operating under the law that said that newly elected officials take office at the completion of town meeting. One of the recent governor's orders shifted that to the time of election, which would have solved all our problems a few weeks ago, but we just got that word, I think, Friday. So we're working through how to do some kind of transition there, and we'll have something to you for your next meeting that works for everybody. But I think we're headed in the right direction there. Questions on that?
No, that was pretty straightforward.
Okay, next is assessing related. Again, with the transition was kind of unclear. I consulted with our attorney late last week, or I heard back this morning. In statute, the Board of Assessors being eliminated took effect with the election that we did succeed in holding a few weeks ago. So the Board of Assessors no longer exists, and you are the Board of Assessors as the Selectmen now. Your assessing duties are now just part of the regular duties of the Selectmen. We had originally planned for tonight to be a FaceTime with not the app FaceTime, but an actual face-to-face meeting with our primary assessor from Avatar to try and start educating those of you that haven't played that role before on what that means. Obviously, that didn't happen. So we're gonna try again, perhaps in a couple of weeks. But in the short term, what that means is that we're going to need you to sign property tax exemption forms and intent to cuts and intent to excavates. Those are things that people that have served on the Board of Assessors are familiar with, but those of you that have not will probably need to do a little education on that. So maybe we'll work up something on that offline, or I don't know. We're trying to figure that out right now. In the interim, well, we've got a few days left before we really need signatures on things. So stay tuned on that piece.
Hey, Chris, a question on that. So if the select board is the Board of Assessors now, and there's 5 of us, does that mean that all documents that assessors would sign requires 3 signatures?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll when things return to normal, we'll build that into your, or sooner, before they return to normal, we'll build that into your routine as part of these meetings. The discussion, if necessary, and signing of those documents will just become another chunk of Monday business.
Okay.
Chris, do you know, are we clear to use any of those digital signing services like DocuSign under this emergency order?
There was something in an early order. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
The challenge with that is that they're still physical papers, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we
So
could
if it's
sign them
electronic-
digitally and then print them out.
Yeah, they're usually coming in from residents, though. They're coming in on paper from residents.
So like you could scan them, right?
Yes.
Scan the filled out copy from the resident, and then we could apply our signature to it and then print out the signed copy, and that becomes the official copy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but you got three different people signing, so you ideally would want all signatures, 3 signatures on one copy, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah. I think the service, like you upload the document that needs to be signed, and then each of us would log in and sign the document. You know, we'd apply our own digital signature, and then we'd have all 3 signatures on the document. Then it could be downloaded and printed out. If as I understand it, I've only used it wasn't DocuSign, it was the other one. I've only used it once. But we can look.
I'll review the governor's order again and see what there was something around that stuff, but I don't remember the details of it. So we may get to that point. Also from the governor, just I think Friday, another order authorized you to waive globally interest on unpaid taxes. There's going to be a number of people that are going to struggle to make those payments in June or early July. And so you're going to have some decisions to make about interest penalties on that. We're going to look at what the systems can handle, and we're also waiting to hear the results of a conference call to clarify a couple points on that. So we'll be back to you with some kind of options and recommendation before those bills go out. We're not in a hot rush on that one, but it is on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, Avatar, our assessors are, they're leaking a little bit on some deadlines, but nothing that, at least at this point, looks to get in the way of our tax billing or the revaluation. The portion of the revaluation that'll be tough is the meetings with individual taxpayers that we were thinking were July, August, early September. July is probably early, but those are kind of up in the air. Those could be a phone thing when this is all said and done. But so a little bit of leaking on the deadlines, but nothing that worries us yet. And then when we get into the finance stuff, we'll talk again about tax receipts and other related things. I think that's it for assessing related business. And then last is Pawtuckaway. You saw the effort last week to get the governor to close the park. That's still seems to be falling on deaf ears. We did close Round Pond Road on Saturday, and the state park folks closed Reservation Road. Those are the two main access points to the back side of the park. It didn't really solve all the problems. We had, I think, a dozen parking tickets written on Round Pond Road, and Chief Foss posted somebody there Saturday and Sunday to turn people away. The sawhorses and signs weren't sufficient. Reservation Road was roped off essentially and had a state park employee parked there, so that worked well on that side. And the need for doing this was made crystal clear by 2 lost hiker searches on Saturday, pretty much back to back. Folks just getting lost, no medical needs, just being morons out in the woods. Unfortunately, it took a lot of our people's time and energy. We had to run two crews out there back to back, same folks in most cases, spent several hours dealing with it.
Oh, those were 2 separate incidences? I thought it was one.
No, two separate incidents. One single hiker in the middle of the afternoon, and then a group of 4 towards sunset.
Okay.
I think the group of 4 was actually on a trail, and got tired and wanted a taxi ride back to their car or something. So no great success to report there. I think Fundy was busy. There was a lot of boat traffic. Fundy's not quite the hiking concern because I guess there's one trail in and out of that. It's really harder to get lost on that side. Flatter trail. So we haven't really touched Fundy. And I know we have the support of the local folks at the park about closure, but that one sits at the governor's desk and it looks like it's not moving. So
No, and he's still posting videos on Facebook about how he's getting outside and walking in his town forest and encouraging people to get out.
yeah. So we'll try again next weekend with a little bit more aggressive posture on Round Pond, but I believe the two that got lost this weekend parked at the main gate of the park, which is what we were directing people to do. So I don't know what more we can do. The Fish and Game is theoretically responsible for a lot of these, but by the time they arrive, if called, I don't know that it's that useful.
Wasn't there another lost person the other night?
There was
Last night?
no.
Saturday.
Oh, there was one in Barrington that they were out looking for. I think that was last night.
Okay.
That may be what you're thinking of. I'm not aware. I talked with Chief Vilchuk earlier today, and he didn't mention anything more than those 2.
Well, I think Nottingham, we've had at least 4 this month.
These 2 were not the first 2.
Yeah.
So Chris, there is some good news today. He's racking his brain going, what's she talking about?
Yeah,
USA Springs?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my screen back. I pushed the wrong button. Okay, go ahead.
Good news today, USA Springs.
Oh yes, today is the 3-year anniversary of the tax deeding of the former USA Springs property. So
we can move forward with this property now.
Former owner no longer has that statutory ability to repurchase without
Great.
significant court action.
Excellent.
Long, hard fought battle.
Finally come to a close.
A little game we like to play called I Win.
Well, when do you want to discuss about selling that property again? Or entertaining the offer that was put, or thinking about whatever, the offer that Romeo put in.
All the options, we could get
Yeah.
it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think we should put that. I mean, I think Ben wanted to kind of prioritize what topics or priorities we wanted to focus on as a board, and I think that's definitely should be one of them.
That is one of them I'd like to see, yes. Was there anything else, Chris?
Not under that broad topic, no.
Okay.
I have one more. I have one more question for Chris. So, Chris, with the election in November, I've read stuff about some, places that are starting to think about if they have to handle mail-in ballots and that kind of stuff. Is our moderator and team starting to think about that at all?
Not that I'm aware of. No, we're all still thinking about getting through town meeting.
Well, that's going to be postponed again, right?
Yeah.
And Bonnie hasn't indicated a date yet?
We spoke last week. She'll be reaching out to you and the safety chiefs as to consult. I think the earliest is probably mid-June.
Really? That's all right,
That
huh?
she's going to suggest, and I think that makes some sense.
And that is hopes that, if we had it in May, it could be postponed again in May if this gets extended, right?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. What's that you got there?
Non-alcoholic.
I was just wondering that myself.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to general business, or is there any more questions for Chris?
I'm good.
I'm good.
John?
Yep.
Okay. So, under general business, Q1 financial update.
All right, so I wrote to you last week with kind of a snapshot. It starts with we're probably not going to have a town meeting on April 18th, as we just discussed, which leaves us without a budget. So we're essentially operating under last year's budget, and the law says you can continue pursuing the same purposes with a reasonable amount of money. So if we use last year's budget as a guidepost, we'll be safe through town meeting whenever it happens. You've got expense and revenue reports for the first quarter. That's March 31st. So really just the beginning of the impact of the whole thing started in March. Overall, we're not in bad shape. We've got a couple of good-sized purchases that we can hold off on. We've got a good burn rate on the payroll lines. The capital reserve fund will cover the reval, so we're not going to be in any jeopardy there. We've got some encumbered and appropriated funds left over to finish last year's work on Ledge Farm and make the repairs that we know we need to make there. So on the expense side, it feels like we're okay. That obviously can get thrown for a loop if we start having really significant pandemic related expenses, but we don't see what those would be other than maybe some contracted services for, if we start losing too many people and can't, we could do something crazy at the recycling center or something like that. We could see some expense jumps there, but where most of our costs are existing people, we're not nervous from an expense side at this point. And obviously a big qualifier there, but everything seems okay. The worries come on the revenue side, and I outlined for you where we're at risk there. First and foremost is property tax bills. They go out in June. There's gonna be some lag in collections there. You can count on that. This is really more a cash flow concern. We're starting to think through that and what that might look like. Most of the money we collect goes up the street to the school, so we'll have to work with them. If it looks like things are really still horrible as we get through late April and May, we'll think more about that. But if it affects us, it's going to affect every town. The interest waiver thing that I mentioned earlier is not big enough to be material. It's kind of found money when we do get it. Other revenue concerns are motor vehicle registrations. Those are about $1 million in non-property tax revenue for us. Renewals will continue at a pretty typical pace, but obviously new car purchases are going to evaporate. That's a big revenue item for us, and will almost certainly be shrinking. It's probably already started shrinking. Other big sources are the rooms and meals tax, the highway grants, and the other revenue sharing grants from Concord. The state's budget situation is not getting any prettier, and we haven't heard anything. The NHMA has been working this closely. We haven't heard anything about cuts, but seems like a logical victim when the state gets its own fiscal house clearer. All those together are something in the neighborhood of $500,000. Again, we're in the same boat as everybody else. I don't imagine Concord will make it all go away, but something's going to change there. And then lastly, on revenue worries is all the other fee-based stuff that we do, recycling fees, building permits, and all the smaller stuff. Those are not big dollar amounts for us, but they are probably all going to drop. So for the full year, we're going to definitely going to see revenue reductions. That will turn into taxes at the point of tax rate setting. We will in October look at the full year and say we've appropriated X and we've raised Y in other revenues, and the difference between X and Y is what we have to tax for. That number, even if we're able to contain expenses or reduce expenses, is going to be bigger than we expected because of those revenue drops. I couldn't possibly put a number on it at this point, but that's what we should expect. You do have some fund balance to work with, so I think that's probably going to be your discussion in October is, how big is our hole and how much of it can we fill right away. And then the last piece of that is we'll probably be needing to amend the budget in some way when we get to town meeting. Perhaps just the revenue side for 2020. We'll know that we're not going to raise the money we expected to, but we're going to have to present something different at town meeting when the time comes. Questions, concerns?
Yeah, Chris, this is Ben. I got one. I have a question, actually a couple. In regards to Ledge Farm Road, we discussed, just refresh my memory, we discussed repairs and all that. Is that at the cost of the contractor? We're not paying for that, are we?
It's a split. Some of the stuff that related to the application, the asphalt, will be on the contractor. Some of the stuff around drainage and under drainage will be on us.
Okay. And what about in regards to Kelsey Road? Thank you, by the way, for getting the barriers out there and signs. It's been reduced to 1 lane for those who don't know. So thank you, Chris and Sean. Will that affect, I know we were looking at grants for that. Obviously, the state of this virus crisis is going to affect that too, right?
Now the grants are us hoping to someday in the future get on the bridge aid list for the state.
Yeah.
That is technically not a bridge right now, it's a culvert.
Mm-hmm.
And the engineers right now are working on an application to try and get that project into the Bridge Aid program. That's a program with a 3 or plus year time horizon. So there is no state aid available for culvert maintenance. Certainly being able to show them that we've had to make this emergency shrinkage of the roadway doesn't hurt our application chances in a few years, but we're still a long way away from getting state help on that.
So we're looking at these barriers being up long-term then?
Yeah, and we're worried about the culvert itself.
Yeah.
It looks like it's deteriorated even since last year when we looked at it.
Okay.
So we may not be done spending money on that culvert before we hopefully turn it into a bridge.
Okay, now when the time does come turning into the bridge, are we looking to straighten the road a little bit, or is it just in place how it is right now?
Haven't talked about that. The engineers, if the engineers say that that's worth the effort, yeah, we'll certainly pursue it. I don't know what our right-of-way situation is there, and I don't recall it being a curve into the bridge right away, but it's wet there.
Mm-hmm.
So those are going to be obstacles.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
I just want to let everybody know that Tyler is finally able to join us. Hello,
Welcome, Tyler.
Yeah, I was on the phone earlier.
Okay.
I couldn't get on, but I'm on now.
Nice.
Okay. Is there anything else, Chris, or?
No, unless you have questions or concerns about monies.
Well, I mean, I think you pretty much spelled it out, and for me, I don't know about anybody else. I mean, anybody else have questions? I know, Tyler, you just got in. I'm not sure how much you've heard, but. Can you hear me, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Chris? I don't know how much you've heard of it.
No, all set.
Okay. So the next item is temp policy, personnel.
Okay, so as we wade our way through these emergency operations and the various federal supports that are coming and seem to be changing every day, we think we have our head around how to approach our current employees. And that was a separate thing I sent you that laid out the essential and non-essential employees, positions by department. Those categorizations are my interpretation of the governor's order. Frankly, they're a little bit subjective. But broadly speaking, everything fits into essential, but for the library and recreation programs. And then I spelled out for you how we have been approaching paying all those folks. We're trying to do a few different things at once. Obviously, maintain our ability to deliver services today and at peak or post-peak pandemic. We really don't know how long this is going to go, and we've been trying to split our people up where we can to make sure we don't lose everybody at once. We don't have a lot of depth in any position, so losing multiple people in any one location or program or service is catastrophic. So that's priority number one. And then we're trying to do that while maintaining the typical income for our essential and full-time employees. Obviously, we want to keep them sane and employed and able to take care of what they got to take care of, and we need them to come back when things come back to normal. We want to make it as easy as we can for anybody that is eligible for the various benefit programs to capture those benefits, and we'll hold their hand through that if necessary. That's still pretty muddy, but it's getting a little better. And then third is to recover as much federal reimbursement as we can when this is all over. We're tracking all the costs we can. We're going to try and shoehorn everything we can into the various buckets they have laid out for us. But as I said earlier, we've not had a lot of direct cost attributable to the pandemic yet. So that reimbursement numbers are probably not what you'd hope it would be, but we'll grab every nickel we can find and stretch every definition that we can. So with those priorities, which is really my interpretation of the discussions we've had over the last couple of meetings, that turns into the chart that I gave you with the various folks, what they're eligible for, what they're typically working, and what they are typically taking home. And all of those turn into some temporary policy changes that we'd like you to make to kind of validate that approach. I think you're pretty much up to speed on how we're splitting people. We've got some people that are essentially on call. They aren't working and we're still paying them. We've got some people that are not working and we aren't paying them. They are eligible for unemployment. I don't know, I laid out what if they get sick or have to self-quarantine, what's available to them and what we can do. That's the one that isn't tested yet, really. There's plenty of federal help. If you do get sick, you can get a couple weeks pay, or we'll get reimbursed for a couple weeks pay. Most of our people have plenty of sick leave. The period of being sick sounds like it's running about 2 weeks. So if we have to come back and change anything, it's probably in there somewhere. We don't want people getting shorted for getting sick. But the best guess we can take at this point is what I laid out for you. And all of that turns into a handful of temporary policy amendments that I've asked you to approve, because I need you to be on board with all these concepts before we go through another couple rounds of payroll. And then the last piece is we've got some people that haven't been able to take vacations. Our existing policy is pretty much a use it or lose it with vacation time, and either with staffing shortages or with the schedule changes that we're going through with the pandemic. We don't want to take vacation time away from people who have been bending over backwards working for us. So need a little flexibility to either pay them for that time or let them take it later than the policy would allow. When we'd ever get to do that, I don't know, but those are kind of the two options that we have for those folks.
Chris, could we leave it up to the individual, whether they want to be paid for it or take it at a later time, or is it better to just have one?
I think most people would rather get paid for it because they probably don't believe that they're going to ever have an opportunity to take it. Okay. But if you're comfortable with either one, I'd just as soon keep it flexible and let that, just work on a case by case with people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
These are our essential frontline people, police officers, firefighters, and maybe to a lesser extent public works, but I don't think it's going to affect that too much.
I like the way that you've laid this out, Chris. I support it.
Yeah, same here. I think it's workable.
No problem here.
So what do you need? What do you need, Chris? Do you just need Ben to sign what you've documented?
Yeah,
Mr. Chair?
if you could just vote to approve those temporary employment policy amendments. That's the last page of that document. I'll ask, if you approve it, I'll ask Ben to sign it, and then Betsy kind of has marching orders, and everybody's covered.
Do you need us to read the whole thing, Chris?
No.
I'll make a motion that we, effective immediately and through the end of the declared state of emergency for 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, pandemic, that the select board approves the amendments to town personnel policies as outlined by Chris Sterndale.
Tony seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I, Donna Danus.
Aye, Tony Dumas.
John Moore.
Hi, Tyler Eden.
Hi, Ben Bartlett. We have unanimous. Thank you, Chris.
That's great, thanks.
And if that's ready to go, I can be in the morning to sign that.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I've asked you to come in to sign something else. Anytime tomorrow's fine.
Okay.
Chris, how's morale?
Good. I think people are getting a little afraid. In talking with the various department heads, I've not heard of any real stressors, but I think we're just getting into it. I know Saturday was real tough for fire and rescue. They had, I think, 4 calls back to back to back. It was a 12-hour day for a handful of people. Everything else, I think, folks are holding up okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything they want to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So that's, I think that pretty much wraps it up with that. Did anybody have, I sent an email over the weekend in regards to, priorities for this coming year, as difficult as it may be with, doing it this way, but has anybody come up with some priorities? I have a couple, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
Well, I think it's going to be a challenge, Ben, because we've got this big, terrible situation to get through.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that the one that we should try to focus on, which is obvious to everyone, is what happens with the USA Springs property from here on.
I agree. I think we should make that a priority.
Yep.
Would everybody else agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
I agree.
Okay.
And
Anybody else have any ideas, priorities? I'm sorry, Tony, I cut you off. I'm sorry, say again.
No, I was going to say, to Donna's point, this whole situation is going to have a financial impact on the town.
Yep.
From every direction, like Chris was pointing out. Auto registrations, car sales are going to plummet, especially if more people lose their jobs. The state is obviously going to lose revenue, and that's going to have an impact on the monies, as little as they are, the monies that we usually get from the state. So I think we're in for a couple of lean years ahead, I'm thinking. So we're going to have to prioritize through that lens, right? So just my thought here, we may want to give that a little more thought towards what, how do we want to shift our priorities towards either saving money or stretching out expenses, like, I don't know, just throwing it out there, ledge farm, not that I want to postpone that at all, but a big expense like that, stretching it out so that it has less of an impact on the town. Something to think about.
No, I think that's a worthy discussion to have. Tyler, John, you want to weigh in?
Well, I'm an optimist, so I think things are going to be great when we get out of this mess. But I think the time we'll see in the next couple of weeks of, where it goes, how much longer things are going to get delayed and put off. I mean, that's really going to be the determination of, how financially we're going to be hit. If we're 3 months down or, it gets to a real state, then you can really see it. But who knows? Maybe everything comes booming back in May and we don't take as big of a loss as we think.
Better err on the side of caution, though.
I understand. But
certainly
these are conversations about this stuff that we definitely need to have as this goes forward. I don't see us not having these conversations about how to lean things out and to try to keep any burden of a bigger tax impact on people because of our revenue loss, you know, as this progresses, you know, hopefully it doesn't progress as long and we don't need to go to those extreme, you know. But again, it's all about time. It's all we have right now is time to wait and see. There is nothing in the, you know, next week that's going to change anything. So
I guess my concern, Ben, is like, I'm hesitant to make this long laundry list of things that we're going to attack like we have in the past, given the uncertainty that at least we face for the next 6 weeks or so.
Mhm.
So I personally don't want to come up with a list of like 6 things. I think, you know, certainly something like USA Springs, we have to take advantage of the opportunity and address. But yeah,
Well, I'd be happy, and maybe the rest of the board feels the same as you do, Donna. I'd be happy to revisit this again in 6 weeks.
yeah, I think I'm leaning towards that, Ben, just, you know, just because we don't know, right?
Right, no, I get it. Would the rest of the board members feel the same?
I think so. We're early in this
We haven't even peaked as far as the number of
pandemic,
cases in the city.
so I think it's going to drag on for many more months. Yeah, it's early, so we're going to need time to digest this.
digesting
Okay,
the
well,
whole
that shouldn't-
conversation we just had, or digesting the USA Springs?
Just the pandemic situation overall and the impact on the town. The USA Springs, you know, that's a golden opportunity for the town that, you know, I think we all agree on
Well, if
that.
there's something that we can do, I think we can move on that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. So I just wanted to be clear because it just seems that the way the conversation went right there, that it could have been either way. So for anybody listening, I want to know that, you know, where we move forward and what we don't move forward on is different.
Well, I'm in favor of moving forward with the USA Springs, and everything else we'll revisit back in 6 weeks.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with it. As long as USA Springs goes to the highest bidder, I'll be fine with it.
Okay. So that being said, is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up?
Then we had one thing to do in non-public.
That's the appointments or
Personnel in the police department.
okay.
Ben, there is one question in the chat as well.
All right, let me see if I can find that.
Do we just want to let Gene ask his question?
Oh, yes, okay. Gene,
Yeah.
you have a question? Are you there, Gene?
He's muted.
Oh, do I have to? Hold on. Come on. Oop,
Okay, I've just been unmuted.
there you go. I
Okay,
think you were clicking and I was clicking at the same time, and yeah.
we did it. This is a first for me. Thank you for organizing this under the circumstances. It's certainly needed. Thank you for the appointment of a deputy tax collector. I've been trying to work with Tracy, and I talked to her today, and she says she's unable to process the checks that she has due to the audit not having been completed. Ordinarily, I'd pop into Chris's office and ask him this stuff, but we're working long distance. So I do have that question: is how long before we can start accepting revenue, tax revenue?
The auditors are they're going tomorrow, I think is their start date. We'll run reports for them. And I think once those reports are run, we can return to, excuse me, depositing. The 7th is their start date now.
Okay. Yep. and Tracy didn't know enough at this point to be able to communicate with you on things like this, but she's learning and she's certainly capable of accepting payments. Now, the next question is the governor's executive order, which I read, emergency order, talks about forgiving interest and penalties. It wasn't clear to me whether that's retroactive because we have at least one sale, Chris, that you and I have talked about that has a deferral on it that is coming up for sale according to email that Tracy and I got, which has substantial interest and penalties on it. So my question boils down to, do we forgive those historical, or does that only apply to the 219, strike that, the 220 upcoming bill?
So I think that's one of the subjects that the NHMA is looking for some clarification on. There was a conference call, I think it was today, it might be tomorrow, on that specific executive order. And that question sounds familiar. So I think that's awaiting clarification.
Okay, because it may be important on that particular sale that you and I have talked about for some time.
Yeah.
They allege that's coming up soon.
I cannot imagine I can't imagine any reasonable mind forgiving everything from the past because of this year's tax bill. But
I can't either, but if I were the taxpayer, I'd be questioning it and trying to avoid it if possible.
yeah,
Tracy's also facing an intent to lien situation where that time is coming up. It's not a set time, but it's flexible. I think you should communicate with her what you think is best and work with her on that.
will do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It. Thank you.
Can we make that mute button permanent for Mr. Reed? Is there one of those I could have?
I've heard that before. You're not the first one to ask that because I ask good questions.
I'm sorry.
I ask good questions. Donna usually puts me on a 4-minute hold.
4 is very generous, Gene.
Bye.
Gene, thanks for
Thanks,
staying
Gene.
in the family here.
Yeah, there's another question out there. Mrs. Tennis, you'd like to say something about the food pantry? Are you on?
I think I have to unmute her. Hold on. There you go. You there, Shelley?
I am. Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay, so I just kind of, wanted to give you an update on the food pantry. Right now, we are serving 26 families. That's including elderly right now. We haven't had any new clients looking for food at this point, but we have had two different families in town, not part of our clientele right now, that were in need of oil. And so we were able to provide them with oil at this point. Thursday, we were supposed to get government food in, but because of the rain and because of the fact that Raymond Fire Department wasn't allowing any people through their building, and that's where it gets picked up. It's in Exeter at a church in a parking lot that they have that's pretty big. And so that should be coming in tomorrow. We're hoping that that's still standing.
Is there anything that you need, Shelley?
At this time, no, I think we're doing pretty good. I've been answering a lot of questions on Facebook about it, and though it's nice that people would like to donate monetary to the pantry, at this point it's very hard for me to get cases of food special orders through Market Basket right now, because they're just trying to meet their demand. And so at this point they're not allowing me, they're not guaranteeing that I'll be able to get the things that I need, but they're willing. I just had a meeting with them on Saturday, and they are willing to try to meet the demands that we might have. I just have to pay for it up front and meet them at the back door. So that's where we're at right now, because usually we try to give out a lot of fresh things if we can. And where some things are limited, like eggs, they're willing to get us, you know, a case or more of that. I just have to pick it up through the back door.
Okay. As always, let us know what we can do to help.
Yeah, I will. And I'm in contact with Sue Benoit now that she's back from Florida. So her and I are in contact, and the word's out there for people to know that we're here to help. It's just, it's I think it's a good thing right now. We just haven't had any new people yet.
Thank you for what you do as well.
Thank you. So I don't know if you have any questions about that or anything else. I know our May distribution, April distribution will probably, I haven't had a chance to talk with Chris yet about that, to do the same that we did in March, where we borrowed walkie-talkies from Courtney, and we had somebody at the door, and then we brought down the food that way so that we didn't have people in the building.
That's easy for us, yeah. Whatever you need.
Okay, so we're still planning to not have people in the building and do it that way again?
Yeah, if it works for you, if we
Yep.
need to, you know, if that's too much for you, we can work something else out, but.
I think it worked out fine last month. Pat and DeRosa and her husband were heading that up as I was in Florida, but we just extended it 2 hours instead of the 1, and called everybody and just kind of staggered it. So it worked out good that way.
Yeah, I think, the extra couple pairs of hands looked like it was helpful too.
Yeah.
If you need that, we can help.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Shelley, this is Lorraine. Did you say that there were 2 families not part of our town that needed the oil and you were able to assist? I just want to.
No, it was 2 families that are part of our town. We just service Nottingham residents. They just weren't, they're not part of our clientele.
I gotcha.
It's
Okay,
just 2 people in town that reached out that were looking for assistance with oil at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Do anybody else see any questions?
Nope.
No, okay.
Nope, I don't have any questions.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to go over before we go into non-public? Or are we going in? Yeah, we are going to non-public.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, yeah.
Hey, Chris, quickly, when we closed down Round Pond Road, Friday or whatever it was, who made that decision? Was that made by you and the fire chief and the police?
Yep.
Okay. Is that normal practice? Would we be acknowledged about if we have to close a road, or is it just normally done that way? I never had
We thought of it more as if there's an imminent safety concern, like a crash or something, they just close the road because we approached it that way. And I let you know in time for you to stop me if you didn't like it. But that was our kind of legal justification. Obviously, if you're not comfortable with us doing that, then you got to tell me, because we're headed towards doing it again. But that was our
on that particular road. As long as you give us a heads up, I don't give a, it's for the best of the town. But yeah,
we plan to do it again next weekend if nothing changes with the state park. Even if the park does close, we're going to have to keep people from going in the backside, because I don't imagine the state's going to do that. So.
No, and that's paid off of our expense, right? We're paying for the sign. We're paying for the. Is it just our cop? Does he get a detail pay, or is he a regular?
This will be regular overtime. But those are actually pretty clean reimbursement cases. So we have some hope and belief that
The state's
we're
gonna
going to take on
reimburse
some
us?
costs, but we're going to get it back from the feds in the end.
Okay.
So what does that cover, Chris? What is that for?
For any costs we incur for closing off the park where we can.
Okay,
Which for us is going to be police officer time and the rental of the electronic sign. Those are really
Okay.
only our direct costs. And we could chalk up an hour of highway time a couple times, and but that's really our only hard
Okay.
costs out of that.
okay.
Anybody else have anything?
No. I don't.
No? Okay. If we don't have anything else, we can go in the non-public if someone want to make some motion.
Which letter is it?
Hey,
Okay.
It is A? All right. So what we'll do is we'll get through the motion on non-public, and I will actually stop this Zoom meeting, and then I will send out another one that I've already prepared, a separate invitation that is just limited to the select board and Chris. And it'll still be recorded, obviously. But that will ensure that we have the required isolation that we're supposed to have on that. Sound good?
yeah, Tony, you should probably state that you'll come out of that non-public session, and you will probably seal the minutes and adjourn the public meeting without taking any other action.
Or for Ben, right? Did you catch that, Ben?
Yeah, I caught part of it. I'm sorry.
When you finish your non-public, the public won't be able to see you come out of non-public. So you should say that you will come out of non-public, probably seal those minutes of that recently closed non-public session, and then immediately adjourn the meeting. You won't take up any other business
Okay.
coming out of non-public.
Well, you did such a fabulous job saying that already, Chris.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah. All right, so we do the motion first?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Tony, were you going to read that, or do you want me to read it?
I'll make a motion. We go into non-public per RSA 91 dash A:32A.
Second. Tony seconds.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I, Donna Danis.
Hi, Tony Dumas.
Hi, John Warren.
Hi, Tyler Eaton.
I've been Violet. Unanimous. And we're going to go into non-public, and I think I just lost you guys. You still there?
Oh, we're still here. I just stopped sharing my screen.
Tony, you're just going to send us out an instant meeting invite. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody look for an invite from Tony.
Do you need me?
No, thanks, Lorraine.
And what was Sandy's last name?
Sandy who?
Sandy, the person that was on here that didn't want to give her last name.
Did she speak?
She didn't
Let's-
speak, but anyone who's in the meeting is usually on the minutes as someone that was there. I'll just put Sandy.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Good enough for now. Okay. So we had we had our vote, and all right. So I'm going to close this meeting.
All right. Bye-bye.
Watch your email. It's coming in a matter of seconds.